It was when I was 13 or 14 when I realized I was different from everyone else. At least everyone that I knew. It was when I had a meeting with a social worker that I remembered the shock and awe that I experienced when she first mentioned cerebral palsy.
I'm Joshua Ung, host of Got Game. I've invited 6 youth with disabilities from across the country to meet me at a board game cafe just outside of Ottawa to talk about our experiences while we play some games.
I would say I got game because of my positivity. I feel that despite the hardships and challenges I face, I really keep a positive mindset.
Arriving from St. John's, Newfoundland is Patrick Curtis, an actor born with cerebral palsy who stays cool under pressure.
I think I got game because I'm a confident individual who can be, in certain situations, calm and collective.
Gabby De Leon, or Lil Gabby D, is a Toronto area digital creator putting the spotlight on Black people with dwarfism on socials and beyond.
I got game because though I am little, I can do big things.
Coming in from West Kelowna, British Columbia, is Austin Dutt, a high school senior diagnosed with autism and ADHD who also loves hockey.
I got game because of my competitiveness. I don't take no for an answer. I go for what I want and when I want it.
Ottawa-based Bianca Borgea is a track athlete and STEM student who's not letting her visual impairment stop her from anything.
I have game because I like to push myself past my limits, and actually not even push myself. I don't even have limits. I like to go above and beyond.
Next up, from Milton, Ontario, is Sophia Ferraro, a creative writer who uses poetry, dance, and fashion to help cope with her PTSD, anxiety, and depression.
I got game because I understand myself and I'm really good at reading people.
Rounding out the group from Markham, Ontario is Ty Young, a wheelchair racing athlete and media producer who thrives in creative chaos.
I got game because I think I bring chaos all the time, but I manage to make it work somehow, and that can be fun.
Today, we're playing What Have You Done? A game where a question is read and anyone who holds up a yes card has to share their story. This is Got Game.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Have you ever tried to change the way you talk?
Yeah.
Gabby, do you want to tell?
Me, for real, I tried to take out the word like in my speech just to not have like be every little word when you're talking to your parent and your parent says, okay, try to talk to me without saying the word like. And you sit there going,
Well, like.
so I went to the store and I saw this dress that was a shade of blue. So things like that, and then that's necessary, I think. Things like that, yeah, that's necessary.
I noticed that a lot of my friends tend to talk differently. I don't know, I feel like we get a certain level of brain rot after we watch Drag Race, and then we just end up picking up all the things they're saying. I'm like, okay, we gotta dial this back. But yeah, that would be it.
Sophia?
My voice changes every time I want to make sounds. I'm a sound person. I don't know, I love music, I love sound in general. And I'm a dancer as well. When you dance, dancers don't count with the counts, although you have the counts in your head. You count with sounds and movements.
That's true, yeah.
So if there's a movement that sounds like a da-da-da, you say that instead of the counts. I do little squirrel sounds as well.
Squirrel sound?
I just love sounds, I don't know.
What's a squirrel sound?
Like if I'm thinking, really hardly thinking, I just go like that.
Oh.
I just go like that.
What about you, Bianca?
Whenever I meet new people, my voice is a lot higher, or hi, so I'm super scared. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Break the sound barrier.
Yeah.
Breaks all the glasses around her.
Forget Mariah Carey.
No, it's actually super hot.
Forget Ariana Grande. No.
Awesome.
I used to have a lisp. I got rid of that. And then I also can do many voice impressions.
Mike Wazowski, you didn't finish your paperwork. I'm always watching.
I can also do, Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Oh, Hama means family. Yeah, and then
Like Soing Scoob.
Yeah. You should just be like a voice actor right now.
Patrick.
Oh.
That was good.
I suppose, on a more serious sense, I tend to say like and bro and a lot, so I try and cut that out.
What's your favorite swear word?
Actually,
Yeah, it's so bad.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah, definitely.
I do swear a lot too.
Yeah, so it was really bad, and then I realized that it was getting out of control when my grandma was around, and my mom would be like, "Shut the f up! Like, why are you fucking saying f?" So I was like, "Okay, let me get a handle on myself."
How did you do that?
I
I'm asking for a friend. It's not like I have a problem or anything.
Okay, my sister, anytime I'd pick up a bad habit, my parents would employ my sister to essentially fill up a spray bottle with water.
What?
Yeah.
Sprayed you.
And my sister would get to like spray me in the
Okay,
face.
wait. Is your sister older or younger?
Younger.
Oh no!
Yeah, she had a blast doing it.
She's younger and she's doing
You're
that to you?
telling me you were sprayed with a water sprayer?
Yeah, it was
like
light.
a plant, like a dog?
Yeah, pretty much.
Bad Josh. Bad Josh.
Exactly. But I mean, it helped, I think, in some ways, so I'm not complaining too much. But
So
yeah.
essentially, I had to change the way I had to talk for a show because I was doing the World of the Worlds, the Panic Broadcast, which was a radio-based theater play. So one of the favorite line was just a single line from a character called Columnist 2. And the line is, and I'll do the voice, I believe Orson Welles and the Columbia Broadcasting System should be sued for their wrongdoing. Welles' performance on the radio Sunday evening was a clear demonstration of his inhumane instinct and his fiendish joy in causing the suffering and distress for those all over the country. He is a carbuncle on the rump of degenerate theatrical performance, and he should make amends for his consummate act of asininity.
As a community theater actor in St. John's, Newfoundland, Patrick recently performed a personal monologue about his disability.
Hi, my name is Patrick Curtis, and I was born with cerebral palsy. This was due to my mother's nurse not taking her concerns with my fluctuating breathing levels seriously. Cerebral palsy affects everyone differently. In my case, it affects the right side of my body. But in others, it can affect both their arms, both their legs, or even their entire body. I got into acting not of my own volition. My mother forced me into acting, actually, because I was in grade 10, and I wasn't really going out anywhere. I wasn't really talking to anyone. I was just coming home and straight to my computer. She knew that I was fairly animated in, how I talk and how I spoke and stuff like that. So she said, just do it. And even though I didn't want to, I said, sure, why not? And, she was right on that one, and I ended up loving it. Growing up, I didn't believe I had a disability. Sure, I had a bum leg and a bum arm, but I was just like everyone else. And I held that belief for a very long time. And to the best of my recollection, I don't believe I was treated differently by any other kids. I was invited to other kids' birthday parties and had a regular group of friends, and I didn't feel excluded from anything.
Patrick's monologue was created for Tales of Us, a show produced by actor, playwright, and director Paul David Power, who also has a physical disability.
We have a program called Tales of Us, T-A-L-E-S, Tales of Us, which we put out a call for performers who have some kind of lived experience with living with a disability to join us in sort of a cabaret-style show.
It was when I was 13 or 14 when I realized I was different from everyone else. At least everyone that I knew. It was when I had a meeting with a social worker that I remember the shock and awe that I experienced when she first mentioned cerebral palsy.
I worked with him for about, 6 to 8 weeks, this performance, and then we performed it here in St. John's, Newfoundland, with 6 other performers, and it was wonderful. Patrick turned out to be a fantastic performer. He's so well-spoken. He has this wonderful voice.
The first words out of her mouth were, "Hey, I didn't mean to freak you out. I want you to remember that you're just the same as you were before the correct term for your condition." I didn't feel the same, though, because now I had a condition that separated me from everyone else.
God Game returns after the break. God Game is back.
Okay, Patrick, just to start things off, can you tell us about your disability?
With my disability, I kind of feel a little bit, kind of torn between two worlds in the front because I don't really feel abled enough for the able-bodied community. I don't necessarily feel disabled enough for the disabled community because I can live independently. I can work and I clean, wash myself, whatnot.
I mean, you mentioned how you felt caught between two worlds. Is that something that anyone else at the table can relate to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. How does it go for you? Because I feel like for everybody here, yes, they agree, but I feel like it's personal for every person.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the time I do feel as though people just treat me, the same as everyone else for the most part, aside from a couple of occasions where it collides.
What occasions are those?
Well, again, mostly in professional work. I at my previous employer with Seniors NL, when I was working there, we hired a few new people, and the woman was like, "Oh, you have cerebral palsy as well. I have an aunt, or I have this cousin that I know, and I know that, this person is just trying to make good conversation." Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that immediately when people know that I have a disability, they're like, "Oh, I know this person who has the same thing."
Yeah, they try to relate to you when it doesn't need to be there.
They could be completely different, in terms of our interests and things, but they still want to just relate just because we have the same disability.
Don't get me wrong, you can relate, just don't do it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Patrick leads a busy life in St. John's, whether he's acting, working, or pursuing his passion for swimming.
I always loved to swim. It is one of the most relaxing. It's also one of the easiest workouts for those with disabilities, or with physical disabilities, because the water takes a bit of the weight off for an hour a day. I just do laps for an hour.
Although Patrick's disability is less noticeable, he still encounters stereotypes.
Unless if you're really taking a keen eye on me, you wouldn't know from afar. If you saw me across the mall, you wouldn't know that I had a disability. I may walk a little bit funny, but I could have just sprained my ankle. You wouldn't have known. When I had a job as Walmart as a greeter, I guess a lot of people did realize that I was disabled. And, I had the whole, "You're an inspiration. God love you, you're doing it." And I'm like, I'm greeting people as, I'm just doing a job. This isn't much, So there is a bit of that. I know that they're trying to be encouraging. And, it's when people aren't aware of disabilities, if you don't have someone in your life with a disability, you're not really sure how to act around them a lot of times. But I still have gotten the, you're such an inspiration for talking.
Gabby, did you want to ask Patrick your other question that you had in mind?
Yes. You mentioned working at Walmart. With your disability, did you find any troubles getting a job? Because I've experienced being someone with a disability, sending in a resume and knowing that potentially they won't call me because I'm different.
No, there was one incident, this was during the coronavirus pandemic, or during the initial outbreak. I desperately needed a job, and I got one at my local gas station in November, December. Anyways, since I live in a very small town, a couple thousand, they knew me. They know I had a disability. And then they were surprised that I was slow. And then after I guess the 2-day training or whatever, no.
Oh.
How dare they?
I feel like you can't do that.
No, that's there is laws. I think there's
Because if you have a disability, shouldn't they accommodate you?
They should. Yeah.
I guess they didn't know how disabled I was, or and they found out that I was too disabled for them.
Yeah. Did you ever speak out about it? Did they ever tell you why they they fired you, or?
Well, they just reiterate that it wasn't going to work out.
That sounds like a relationship.
What?
Well, it just wasn't I wasn't a right fit for it, so to speak. And that was that.
If they're gonna put you through the training, they should already have in their mind, okay, how can we help him to succeed? We're not gonna make him do all this work and then be like, just kidding.
So after that experience, like, what did you do? Like, do you kind of like feel like your disability was kind of like a burden to you, or?
A little bit, you know. I definitely felt like I was the lowest and I needed to get out of that town, but there was no way to get out of that town because it was, again, like November of 2020. So, you know, this was kind of like a beacon and then it just, you know, dissipated.
So how'd you like bring yourself up from that?
Well, I got lucky. I landed a job as a enumerator for the Canadian census in 2021. And with that, it was granted me the ability to move out into St. John's, which had a lot more of opportunities. So basically, I just got lucky.
I used to work in retail, but I worked at a store, and in this store, everybody knew that I had a disability. I think a lot of people would forget about it because it's not a visible one. I just started feeling a panic attack coming, and I was like, oh, I can't. And I mic'd my manager, and they didn't answer me. And I had that day a friend of mine that I did at the job working with me. And so I like mic'd her as well. And she came rushing. And the moment that she got there, I saw her getting there and I just fainted. The main manager, the one that hired me and that knew my disability and the one that was like okay with everything and made sure of everything, he was in the other room of the back room, just chilling, didn't really care. And I actually overheard him saying like, she's just acting it out, like she's making it up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm accepting of my disability. If you're not, and you're still choosing to hire me, I'm not gonna spend my time here trying to convince you that I do have my disability. And it's this tone that they talk to you towards. It's like as if you're not understanding what they're saying. Like, I understand English, I understand everything you're saying. I have a disability and you agreed to let me work here. Why would you act the way that you're acting towards me? It's like they're belittling you. And after that, like I left like a week after that. I was like, I'm not gonna work here anymore. Like, and when I said that I was gonna quit, he was like, oh, are you sure? Like, don't quit, don't leave just because of your disability. I'm like,
for real.
I'm not leaving because of my disability. I'm leaving because of you.
Yeah, because of you and your shitty treatment.
Yeah, and I actually like told him off.
Thanks for sharing, Sophia. That's good.
God Game returns after the break. God Game is back.
Have you ever received a gift that brought tears to your eyes?
I have to say, this one, it's weird. I have to say yes, barely though, barely yes. My mom got me this little like, what's it called, music box, and it was the "You Are My Sunshine" song.
Oh.
And she would always sing it to me when I was a baby.
Oh.
So it made me water up, and I did have a single. I immediately like blinked though when it happened, so it didn't like fall down. So technically that counts.
No, it counts.
Yeah, it counts.
It counts. That's a W.
So, but like it was like I played it and it had like this little like writing engraved on it saying like I will always love you. You are like my life and whatever.
Oh.
And whatever.
Sorry.
Bianca.
I think one of the best gifts that I've ever gotten was the necklace I'm actually wearing now. So my mom gave it to me. She's like, here, you can like hand this down to one of your daughters whenever you get older and all that stuff. So it's kind of a hand-me-down. And I'm like, where'd you get it? She's like, oh, I bought it, but like now it's yours. So now you can like do a hand-me-down thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that is cute. That is really cute. Yeah.
You know, it started with her, so I'm like, okay, at least I get to continue something here. So.
Family heirloom. You know, it'll pass down generation.
Pass down generation.
You're the first.
Patrick is close with his mom, Catherine Curtis, who visits from their small hometown of Bishops Falls, Newfoundland when she can. She's impressed with everything that her son has achieved.
I don't even know the last time. Christmas, I guess. Yeah. So you're gonna show me your house?
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm so proud of him, the ability for him to go off to Cape Breton on his own or come out here. He didn't know soul. Right, get his own apartment and get a job and go like fight for everything. So I'm very proud of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no
So
idea.
she's retiring. He knew what he wanted. Like, you know, he went for it. Right? He worked hard at it, and he did really good. I mean, I can't believe what he's after doing at St. John's. He's only been out here a year, and he's after doing really well for himself.
While Patrick now enjoys an independent lifestyle in St. John's, finding work was difficult at first.
I needed the help of an employment service called Stella Circle to help find me gainful employment because I was just getting absolute silence, whatever resumes that I threw out there. They instantly believed in my ability, honestly, like, because I was at my wit's end, so I was like, I need a job, and I need a job quick. What I have found is that you need, at least someone with a disability, you need someone championing you for that job position. Because if someone can vouch for you, that job will now likely, they'll be more open to giving you that opportunity.
While Patrick used to avoid receiving help for his disability as a kid, his viewpoint has changed in adulthood.
I shied away from getting any benefits due to my disability. Like, I didn't join Easter Seals because I felt as though I wasn't disabled enough in that. And then, finding out later in university when I decided to accept more help based off my disability, realizing that, there's not actually that many opportunities when you reach adulthood.
I got a question for you as well. What was if you don't mind, what was the worst experience that led to discrimination that has happened towards you?
Well, I've been actually fairly lucky, so I guess the most erroneous one is probably just the, inspirational porn for individuals. Because I was a Walmart greeter.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, oh, the 16-year-old.
It's not hard. Yeah.
Yeah, why are you praising me up when I'm essentially just telling people washrooms that way, McDonald's is this way.
Stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
For anyone who's not too sure, can you explain what inspirational porn is?
So inspirational porn is essentially when you hype up or when you kind of glorify a disabled person doing a regular activity. So if you see a person in a wheelchair at the gym, you're like, oh my God, like how can he do that? Wow. And then they sometimes use that to degrade their friend. They're like, that person in a wheelchair can get to the gym.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. They're like, wow, you're I can't believe that you're doing it. You're doing it. You're so good. And it's just it's just fake praise because they might be just doing a couple of squats or lifting a couple of weights and that's it.
Yeah, they're just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I really relate to that. I once was in the gym and I turned my head and I was on my racing chair roller and I turned, someone was just filming me.
Oh,
and then they panned the camera away and I was like, hello? What's going on? I look horrible right now. Let me get ready. But it was just I don't know. It was just it was a really weird situation. I don't even know who that person was.
I hate people like that. They use people for clout, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's
why are you filming people? What?
At the gym, especially at the gym.
And you know why they're filming. It's not like, oh my gosh, I look so good, thank you.
It's
you're
really
filming
they're
me,
trying to make fun of you.
Yeah.
Luckily, I never had that, but they don't understand because most people's lives and
It's
in
just
their
theirs.
point of view.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, and I mean, I don't know every disability. I can't speak for anyone, let's say, with spina bifida. I know a friend with spina bifida, but I wouldn't know the ins and outs of it. But until you have someone in your very immediate family or a very close friend, that's when you realize, that's when you know about a lot about the disability and what people can and cannot do. Versus if you don't know anyone, right?
Sophia?
I do want to chime in about everything that we're saying right now because I feel it's so important. I do understand the whole area that the able-bodied community, they sometimes don't understand and they're really naive. But I also am a lot of pro education. It doesn't always mean you need to know everything about this person's disability. But when you have basic levels of empathy and care, you are able to understand them and just overall treat them as human beings.
God Game returns after the break. God Game is back.
I wanted to throw in one thing that I sort of related to before. When I was a kid, I was a part of this like hospital, and they helped a lot of people with disabilities, and they were all fantastic. Everyone was really great. But what I will say was my mom, she had a lot of, I guess, coping or just understanding how to parent me, what to do, and she went through a lot. And she went to a support group with like other parents with disability. This is pretty intense what happened, but they told her that I wasn't like disabled enough because most of their kids had like really high medical needs versus my disability was kind of just isolated to my wheelchair, and I was decently independent for my age and always pretty much a go-getter. So I feel like in terms of that, there was a slight disconnect between myself and the disability community. And I feel like this sort of pushed me into this mindset or this way of being where I'm always trying to like do things and be involved like in any spaces possible, which I think anyone should be able to do that, but almost to a level of like, oh, I'm always trying to keep up with able-bodied peers and all of that. And so I just kind of relate to your feeling of not being a part of either one of the worlds, because I feel as if once I'm in the able-bodied realm, people are really weird about it. And then sometimes for me in the disability community, there's also that. But I will say too, like, there's a level of privilege that I do have with my disability. So that's something that I don't want to ignore, but it's still a feeling of belonging that I don't always feel is given to me.
Yeah.
I feel that too sometimes. In my head, I don't see myself fully as, because I'm 3'11", as even below 4 feet. One day I'll get to 4 feet, I'll have a 4-foot party, it'll be amazing. But I kind of balance that to where I'm with my average height people so often that when I go into the disability, specifically like dwarfism world, it's kind of like, it's a weird culture shock for me being somebody with dwarfism, because I go from like talking to people every day, looking up at them, to now I'm looking you in the face. Does my breath smell okay? Like, I don't know what to do anymore. And it's this thing of like, I should somewhat be more comfortable with people who are similar to me, but it's this weird balance of that as well.
Patrick, in terms of your experience within the disability community, what's that like in terms of not feeling fully?
Well, it just, like I know that like growing up, I had plenty of opportunities to like join summer camps, and I refused each and every one of those. And I even fought with the Sunshine Foundation of Wish Canada program, because I thought, like, you know, I can go on these trips later if I really want to. I don't have to use this. I feel like a more deserving child, you know, could take these.
This is the neck.
Okay. Have you ever slept in a car overnight? Let's hear it.
Okay, let me start with you.
Okay, so my stepdad was seeing a family friend, and basically we didn't have any room in their RV. I slept in the car, woke up the next morning with like the worst headache of my life because it was not comfortable at all.
I did do a road trip that was like overnight, but I didn't sleep in the car. Right. Like I was like, I'm not sleeping until I get to a bed. I feel like I can't sleep in a car. I can sleep in a train and I can sleep in a plane, but I can't sleep in a car. I don't know why.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I can sleep anywhere.
I used to be able to.
Literally anywhere. Like,
I used to be
on the
able
floor, I could literally fall asleep on the floor.
I can fall asleep I'd rather floor, honestly, than a car.
Oh.
Really?
Patrick, can you drive?
No.
Do you rely on public transport then?
Yes.
How do you find the public transportation in your area?
In Newfoundland, it's quite rough. If you miss the bus, you're gonna be waiting for an hour. And effectively, there's no real set schedule, so they can arrive 5 minutes early, they can arrive 10 minutes late. That's it. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Because of my cerebral palsy, I would have to have a car specialized for me. And because of my bum eye, I wouldn't be able to drive at nighttime. So I said to myself, you know, it's not really financially advisable. So I just decided to go with the cheaper one on the bus. Now in St. John's, that means I have to be a patient man because, you know, the bus basically runs every hour. So if you miss something, you know, you're waiting an hour.
With a combination of public transportation and walking, Patrick still manages to enjoy many hobbies, from acting and swimming to visiting his favorite comic book shop.
Hello.
Hey.
Comics came into my life around high school. This was at this point where I was starting to stay in more. So I was like, you know, because I didn't really want to go out, out in parties or whatnot. So I started to read a lot. And funny enough, I'm kind of the opposite of most people, because I'm more of a DC guy. At a certain point, I was reading like 40 titles a month. And I've gotten back down on that a lot because I'd have less free time. Hello.
Hey, I'll start there.
Although he manages to get around, Patrick's life would certainly be easier with a car.
I wish I had a car. I really wish I had a car, but I don't. So, you know, it's a it's a shitty situation, but it is the one that I've been dealt with, and I have to deal with it the best I can. The municipality government of St. John's really they don't really care about pedestrians. This is very much clear. No, because they don't even clear. We'll have like 30 centimeters of snow, and there's like 1/2 of the sidewalk.
No snowplow.
Wow.
And they don't even plow it off.
Wow.
So you essentially have to walk on the side of the road.
Oh.
That's dangerous.
And
Is there a bike lane?
No.
Oh.
I understand what animals hibernate now. I would not leave my house if that was the state.
Well, I mean, in Newfoundland, basically, the disabled community is isolated during the winter months. So from January till we get pretty much mid-April, we have quite a bit of snow. So from that period of time, disabled people are just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So if you don't have a car, you're done.
Have you ever had any accidents or issues walking in that type of condition?
Well, I had a few. I slipped a few times. Regardless, and you just kind of have to brush yourself off and go again. Try to walk as slow as possible. Have a very bright color on you so people are visible to you.
God Game returns after the break. God Game is back.
Have you ever accidentally cut yourself really badly? And we'll go tell us stories. Okay, you start, Josh.
I eat a lot of tuna, and I didn't. Okay, wait.
You cut yourself on a tuna can?
Yeah, I was opening the can, and I sliced open my hand, so now I have a scar.
How old were you? How old were you? How old were you?
Oh God, I was yeah, it was.
It was last year?
And then my mom sent me TikToks on how to open a can, and I was actually doing it wrong.
So mine is very complicated. So basically, when I was a kid, I was on a bouncy house one time, and I guess I bumped into someone, and I bit my tongue hard enough to the point where it cut open. So basically, I went to my mom like, hey, I just hit someone's head, and she's seeing me talk, and then she sees the blood dripping out of my mouth.
He went in a boy, came out a vampire.
I feel like with my disability, it's like wet floor signs and me are enemies. So I just kind of kick them and I'm continue walking.
To be fair though, I think wet floor signs are everyone's enemies. I don't even see them.
Oh, okay, so it's not just a me thing.
Yeah, no, I don't, I sometimes I'm walking in a grocery aisle and I end up I'm looking while walking.
Yeah, the thing is you're not looking down at, oh, look at that wet floor sign.
They're right there, they're half my height.
She sees them.
Yes. I'm like, guys, watch out.
But you bump into them and you're like, oh, sorry.
I think it's kind of funny you say that because I'm a really clumsy person, just generally.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll just do the most strange thing, I'll just knock down a row of things, and it's just totally me just being clumsy. And then I'm like, oh, this is awful. But it's kind of funny how that happens. Yeah, it's everyone assumes that our disability is gonna be the problem they have to help with, but actually I'm just so clumsy.
It's the opposite. Exactly.
I was just going out of a store once, and I didn't realize there was just a curb, and I just went right off the curb. I was fine, but
Did you face plant?
No, because I landed, but it was kind of scary because I didn't see that there was no ramp, and I was just talking, yapping away, and then I'm just, yeah. And this happens way too often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely feel that me, especially when me and stairs were enemies sometimes. Yeah. I don't know, stairs just don't like me and I don't like it.
This one's interesting. Have you ever intentionally resisted watching any movies or TV shows that almost everyone else has seen?
Oh.
Oh. Oh?
Patrick, why don't you tell us which one?
Euphoria.
Yeah.
I saw like a clip of it. I was like, this is weird.
It's actually crazy how they like depict high school students as that, because I'm like, I would never.
Yeah.
At 16, I was not doing that. I was like, what kind of high school is this?
At 16, I was still like playing with my dog. I don't know.
Like I'm sure that Zendaya.
Was absolutely not high school dress code.
Yeah, like I'm sure that Zendaya, had a good performance and everything, but like, any clip of that show just, I don't know, turns me off completely.
Still haven't seen Frozen 2. And I don't care. I'm not seeing it.
I once set off a dorm alarm to Frozen 2.
Why were you watching Frozen 2 at a university?
First off, don't judge my taste. I was watching it with my girls. We were having a girls' night. I accidentally burnt popcorn. I set the entire building. The fire alarm went off. We all had to go outside. I was so embarrassed.
Ty?
When I was a kid, I just was terrified of E.T., so I refused to watch that for like years.
Is E.T. the alien or
that
the
little alien? Like I was like terrified, so I just avoided it, and that's it. Yeah.
God Game returns after the break. God Game is back. After performing his monologue for Tales of Us back in St. John's, Patrick was cast as the lead in Perry Mason, A Case for Mason, another Paul David Power production.
I had a detective agency do some checking on you this afternoon.
The next production that Power Productions had here in St. John's was a Perry Mason mystery. Which was part of our other programming of just doing a fun show that doesn't necessarily have to be about disability, but I cast it with diversity to show that, you can have diversity on stage and it doesn't have to be about disability. It could just be diversity on stage, like you have in the real world.
Your late husband was an unappreciated novelist. You poured all of your creative energy into serving Mr. Bain.
Whether he has a leading role or a small part, Patrick is just happy to be a part of the community.
While it's fantastic to get a lead at this point of view, I'm grateful for any role, really. Because, even the smaller roles that, you have 5 lines, they still need to be cast. They still need to be done. I'm a bit vain. Obviously I do love a bit of the applause as well, but I just love the process of, a dozen or so strangers come together, having this unique bond, you're meeting, fairly frequently each day, and then eventually it ends, and then you're going your separate ways, and then it all goes all over again with a new play that you're going dark.
Patrick hopes to remain active in the community theater scene while also working to help those in the disability community.
Hopefully I see myself in, a nonprofit sector, working with people with disabilities, or at least some people with disabilities, in a job that I really enjoy, and and then on occasion, hopefully be able to do, community theater here and there. That's hopefully where I see myself in 5 years. I still get the adoration of people. I still get my parents and my friends being like, wow, you should be in the movies. And then I still get my steady, paycheck 2 weeks that, I don't need like 2 or 3 jobs to do. I'm satisfied enough to, perform here in the community theater section. I don't necessarily need fame. But, it would be nice to see more disabled people like actually in the spotlight, to have them on the feature length films and the Hollywood stuff, rather than being cast away or hid away, and then even when there is an opportunity, is given to an able-bodied actor who just is portraying it.
How do you feel media portray disability, and do you feel that they do an adequate job, or do you think that there's a lot of room left to go?
Like everyone should have the opportunity to be represented and put onto shows, so I think representation has a lot of work to do, but in doing so we can make those changes because media is such a powerful tool. Representation is the most powerful thing to help us destigmatize the things that we're all working for.
So do you believe, because I certainly do, like in movies and TV shows, if a person has a disability, they are written with a disability in mind. And I find that a lot of able-bodied people can get those jobs even though they don't have that disability.
Yeah.
However, any character that does not have a disability written in the script is always cast by an able-bodied person. You never see basically a disabled person have that, you know, that character and just live their life.
There was a show, Glee, that had Artie, and he was not played by an actor who used a wheelchair. And that's bad now, like, let's not do that again. But I will say that character was a point of inspiration, I must say it, for me, because I saw myself, someone in a wheelchair, singing and dancing, doing things that I did know was possible because I saw it on TV.
Besides Artie, kind of, do you have another well-represented person using a wheelchair character in media at all? That you kind of said, okay, this is...
No.
No?
I mean, nothing comes to mind right away.
And
so
that's
the
not
problem.
good.
Yeah. I mean, bottom line, we know now that that's not right, and we know that there are actors and there are people with disabilities that can play those roles. So I think that's the end of it, really. Like, cast those
Where
people.
they should go.
Yeah.
And what's so cool is that able-bodied people should not play disabled characters, but disabled actors can play able-bodied people.
Yeah.
Because like what you would, not even what society deems as like able-bodied roles are like just everyday average people. But that's literally people with disabilities.
Yeah.
As a disabled actor, you should be able to be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a detective, be whatever it might be. And it's cool that we can do that switch, but they should not. They do, but they should not.
Yeah.
Patrick, I actually had a question that I wanted to ask you because you mentioned before how you felt like a bridge, and I was hoping you could explain that analogy to the rest of the table. And
With my work, I'm hoping to eventually kind of take the bridge, but like take a bridge between people who are unaware of disabilities, and very specifically, well, you know, cerebral palsy, since that's the one that I'm most familiar with, and try to branch out and like make sure that the outside world, who, you know, might not be aware of disabilities, you know, knows more about it by the, you know, when they come in contact with me. So I'm hoping, you know, for my future work, that's where I'll end up being and doing.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
what value do you see in being able to communicate to both able-bodied people and disabled community?
Well, I think it would clarify things, because I feel like the able-bodied community, I feel the majority of them have no ill intent. They're just very naive about these things, and they don't understand it, you know, quite honestly. And I know that a few of, you know, I know that, you know, disabled people obviously get very angry at that. So I'm hoping to kind of ease tensions on, you know, to clear able-bodied's ignorance on that, and hopefully to reduce the anger levels of, you know, some people with disabilities.
Being neutral and...
Yeah, be neutral in it, and you know, hopefully that, you know, people can understand the different viewpoints.
Yeah.
All right, guys, well, thanks for playing. It's been a great game and a great discussion. Patrick, it was great getting to know you, and we hope you enjoyed your episode of Got Game.
Producer, Tim Alp. Associate producer and host, Joshua Ung. Created by Joshua Ung through AMI's apprenticeship program. Written and story edited by Maureen Carter. Director of photography, Benjamin Dion. Editors, Caitlin Martell, Suzanne Hancock. Integrated described video specialist, Ron Rickford. Supervising producer, M. Williams. Copyright 2024 Accessible Media Inc. Produced for AMI by Mountain Road Productions.
An AMI original production.